Okay, Scott Miller, you guys have met Craig Binkley, the brand guy. This is a great brand expert trained at Coca-Cola, Diet Coke, established that platform for that to become the #2 soft drink in America. Yeah. He put the cold in Coors Light, and just a great, smart brand guy. Now, he's been out here because everybody talks about marketing and branding and selling in their businesses. These days, branding is a big word for small businesses, and we did a section with Craig and said, let's talk about how you brand your business. And I guess, most people, when they think of their brand, they think of their logo. Maybe we're Easy Glow, or we're Coca-Cola, or Ace Hardware. But what, a lot of people watching, sole proprietors, but also small companies, are named after a person. Yeah. It's sort of like your brand. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an insurance person, you're a contractor, and the brand is you. So, you did the 6-pack of rules of branding for small businesses. So is it a whole different set of rules for when it's an individual?
The answer is no. It's like, laws of gravity. There's only so many times you can change it, and it's not going to change often. So we have the same 6-pack, but how you apply them is in fact a little different when it's your name that's on the door versus, Catch a Critter or whatever, name that you might have picked up for your
Catch a Critter. I love that one. We're going to, just so you folks know, we're going to put up the 6-pack on onemorecustomer.tv. You'll be able to find it after this interview and after this show, and come back and study it and print it out and keep it. But let's talk about it right now. Let's talk about what were those 6 key issues, and let's talk about them one at a time.
Yeah, well, the first one is about how the brand is everything. And we said before that, it's not just the logo, the name on the side of the truck, and that goes as well when it's your name. So if you're Johnson Electric or something like that, it's not just what's on the side of that panel truck that you're driving around that represents what your brand is. The brand's everything. So it's every experience that your customers have with you. It's how you deliver. It's how you follow up. It's how you get to them if you're on time. And beyond that, a lot of you guys have businesses where there are other people working for you. It might be your name, but you in fact have other employees. So when Johnson makes a mistake at Smith Plumbing, it's a Smith Plumbing problem. So
yeah, exactly.
It's everything, and it's everybody that
your
represents what's
name
inside
is your brand.
brand.
I mean, that's a big thing. We know, you and I from our old experience, if Coors Light has a product problem, or Coke has a product problem, which they one time had in Europe, boy, that affects everything in their company. But it's the same thing, as you say, if you're Smith the plumber, anything that happens in your company affects your brand, which is your name.
Yeah, and it's hard, it's thinking about it when it is your name. You get obviously very close to that. You put it on your passport, you put it on your signatures, and your kids have it, your parents have it. So, but thinking about it in a business context, like we're talking about here, it's really understanding that brand's everything. It's way beyond the name, even more so when it's your personal name versus when it's a cup of soup name that we created. Yep. That's the first thing.
Number one thing is your brand is everything. What's number 2?
Second thing is differentiation. We talked about that last time. And so when we talked about having something that differentiated your service, your product, your brand, in this case, it could be even more important because your name potentially is the same name as a lot of other people out there. So there could be people that have the same name in a different business. Yep. So you've got to make sure you're differentiated and clear on what it is that you're going to do for these customers.
And you're an insurance agent named Hernandez, and there's thousands.
There could be a bunch of them, absolutely.
Thousands, and so Fran and I talk about it. You and I talk about it all the time. Differentiation is where value comes from, because differentiation is what raises you above the pack.
Right, right, and that helps them navigate, because again, consumers are using marketing and branding to navigate their choices, and if everybody's got the same name, then we've got to make sure we differentiate what we're delivering to them. So differentiation, very, very key, whether it's product, whether it's service, whether it's how you interact with them, et cetera.
Okay, that's the first 2. Well, what's the third one of the 6-pack?
Well, the third one we talked about was about knowing your customers.
Oh, yeah.
So no matter what your brand name you chose is, whether it's your personal brand, your family brand, or your Catch a Whack-A-Mole or Catch a Critter brand, you got to know your customers. You got to know who they are, where they're coming from, what keeps them, what the commonalities are between them, what are your best customers, which ones are the ones that you really want to keep coming back for more versus the ones you're going to try to bring in and acquire through some of the programs you're going to use.
And they're going to tell you, I mean, we know they're going to tell you what's important about your brand. I mean, they're going to tell you what you really need to emphasize, what are the relevant benefits that are going to be important to them. You talk to them and listen, you may think what we do great is, we're fast at doing roofing, but it turns out they want thorough, or they want to make sure there's a guarantee. You find that out from knowing your customers.
Exactly. You know who they are. You talk to them. That's the fourth point really there, is to communicate with those people. So once we've identified who they are, the more we talk to them, we talked about, Bernie said, you go through the parking lot, you talk to your customers.
He said he spent 60% of his time talking to his customer. That's great. And who's that guy? What's the name of that guy? Fran Tarkenton.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Fran says people got to talk to people. Well, I mean, you got to walk the floor. You got to be out there. You got to talk to your customers. Get them on the phone. Email them. Get into social media with them. Find out what they're saying, and particularly find out what they're saying about you.
Yeah, exactly. When your name is the brand,
Yeah.
you got to particularly find out what they're saying. You got to talk to them and understand what it is they're looking for, what they see in your brand. As you said, they will help define what your brand is for you. And again, it's not just your name. It's the totality of how people see what you bring to them, your service, your benefits, and as we said before, how you are or are not differentiated.
Yep, and I think so many lawyers, insurance agents, even doctors, they walk away from a meeting and they go to the parking lot, get in their car, and they think, well, that's over. Now here we go. But their brand is still alive, driving that car, going into the convenience store down the street, or getting coffee the next morning at Starbucks. You're wearing your brand.
Right, all the time.
Wow.
All the time. My name is.
Yeah, well, okay. Let's see. We did the brand is everything. We did. You got to differentiate your brand from all the others. You gotta know your customers, and in order to really do that, you got to constantly communicate with them. That's 4. What's 5?
Then you got to have a marketing game plan. We talked about having a game plan, and if you're a small business or a big giant company, you really do need a marketing plan. You need to think through who it is you're going to try to reach. We talked about knowing the customers. Where do I find them? What is it I'm going to say to them? And really build a marketing plan so that we have an approach that we want to follow. So how we're going to use the different tools
Actually
that we
building
have.
a plan, not just, people say, well, okay, I'm going to do a website, and maybe I'm going to do a emailing blast out to people, or I'm going to call a few people. You're saying, but make it all part of a plan.
And make it fit to the other 4 things we talked about. So you're trying to make sure that when you're building this marketing plan, it's based on a knowledge of your customers, who they are, where they are, what it is that they're saying about you as a brand and how you're differentiated, so that you can in fact bring something different to them. You're not just executing those elements. I've got to have a website, I've got to have an e-commerce, I've got to do a Groupon, but it's actually in the context of a plan, not just a bunch of activities.
That you can look back and say, is this thing working? Is it delivering? And then make changes as you have to.
Right, and that goes to the 6th part. I mean, the 6th part is don't stay static. I mean, always be on the move, be addressing your plan that we talked about as the 5th point, making adjustments as they're needed, but then also, particularly since your name is the brand in the case we're talking about here, is that also can't become static. You can't just say, Johnson pesticides or whatever it is, become static, and you never revisit that. You're never bringing new value. You're never bringing new innovations. Do you have the latest kinds of chemicals to your service? Are you becoming an expert? So if you're the roofer, to your point, it may not be that they just want the best price. They want some expertise. They want you to tell them what's happening. How long is this going to last?
Yep.
What happens if I just have some shingles that need to be replaced? So whatever business you're in, it's more important than ever not to be static when you are the name.
And I think that people, back to your, you got to be constantly talking to your customers, is that they'll usually sort of tell you what the competition's saying. They'll say, well, how do you use, green chemicals in your work? Are you?
Right.
And you'll say, oh, maybe this is out in the competitive environment now. So when you're trying to be refreshing yourself, your brand, not being static, you got to be aware of what changes are going on out there. Suddenly new things are important to people that weren't important before because the competition changed the dialogue.
Right.
It's all going. So the 6-pack brand is everything you say and do. You got to differentiate that brand. You got to stand out from the pack. You really find out what's important about your brand by talking to your customers. Their perceptions define what are the important benefits of your brand, and you just keep talking with them and talking with them. You got to create a plan. And that is not hard. You know, it's something people don't like to think about when it's just their brand, but you want to have a plan that says, here's how I'm going to deliver success for my business. I'm going to do these 5 things. I'm going to advance it by, you know, getting to these people, and then keep refreshing it and refreshing it and refreshing it and keeping it from getting static. The 6-pack for your personal brand, for your name, your brand, the brand guy, Craig Binkley. Thanks a lot, man.
It's my name.
Good to see you.
Thanks.